we are going to review some of the patterns in exponents. So if we started with something simple, fourth to the third, what is that really telling us to do? That is 4 times 4 times 4. So if I had 4 to the fifth divided by 4 to the third, I could multiply them all out and then simplify, but it's actually easier if you look at them as factors. So I have 5 4s on the top and 3 on the bottom. What's going to happen? And I'm left with 4 squared, which is 16. So instead of doing 4 to the fifth is 1024, and 4 to the third is 64, and then doing 1024 divided by 64 and getting 16, you can just simplify the exponents. Okay? No. I'll say it. That's the assignment. No. Okay, but what about 4 to the negative 2? Yeah, good. Negative exponents flip fractions upside down. So this is kind of like saying 4 over 1, and then the negative is going to turn it into 1 over 4 squared. Well, the exponent is negative, not the number, not the base. The exponent is negative. So now 1 squared is 1, and 4 squared is 16. So going back to the original problem, 4 to the negative 2 is just 16, but it's upside down. Does that make sense? Well, what if you had multiple numbers, like 3 to the negative 4 and 5 to the negative 2? Well, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. So 3 to the fourth is 81, but it started in the numerator, and the negative is going to put it in the denominator, 81 down here. And 5 squared is 25, but the negative is going to move it to the top. So the answer is 25 over 81. Is that going to simplify? No, because 81 is made up entirely of 3s. 3, 3, 3, 3. And 25 is made up entirely of 2s. So there's nothing to cancel. All right? What about this? 6 to the 0. It's 1. Why is it 1? Yes, anything to the 0 is 1, but why is that the case? Nobody's bothered to tell you before, but here's the reason. What if I had 6 to the 5th over 6 to the 7th? Then that is 1 over 6 squared, right? Why didn't I put the 2 on the top? It would have been negative, right? So 5 minus 7 is negative 2. So I could say 6 to the negative 2. But whichever one has more 6's, that's where the answer is going to go. Agreed? If we had 6 to the third over 6 squared, that's going to be 6, and then we do 3 minus 2, which is 1. Everybody agree? Well, what if I went in and changed this to a 3? Then that changes this to a 3, and it changes the 1 into a 0. Right? There are just as many 6's on top as there are on bottom. Well, what is any number divided by itself? 1. So 6 to the 0 power is similar to 6 over 6, or 6 to the 5th over 6 to the 5th. That's why the 0 power is always 1, because it says there are just as many 6's on top as there are on bottom. Okay. there is a difference between -3 squared and -3 squared. What's the difference? Good. The first one is negative 3 times 3. So 3 times 3, so if I block this, 3 times 3 is 9, and then I'm going to make it negative, so that's equal to -9. The other one is -3 times -3, which is just 9. Okay? What if I did third power? -3 to the third and -3 to the third. So the one on the left would be -27. And the one on the right is, it's also -27. Why? 3 negatives makes a negative. 2 negatives makes a positive. 3 makes a negative. What about 4? Why positive? It's even. There are the same, they're an even number of negatives, which means they all cancel. So what about -3 to the 9th? Would that be negative or not? Negative because it's odd. Okay. So if I had -2 to the third over -6 to the 0, what is the top going to equal? -8. And the bottom? Is it 1 or -1? -1. Why? The 0 only hits the 6. It doesn't hit the negative. So -1, which ends up being 8. Okay? So negative exponents flip things upside down. 0 exponents turns it into 1. If your exponent is even and there's a negative inside the parentheses, the negative gets destroyed. If it's an odd exponent, then the negative just sticks around. Okay. All right. What if I had 4 to the 0, c to the -3, d to the 5th over -2 to the 2nd, a to the -4. When I simplify this, we have to decide where each piece goes. So what is 4 to the 0? 1. I don't even need to write it. Okay. What about c to the -3? Goes to the bottom and becomes positive. So c to the third. The d stays where it is. Okay. The -2 squared. It is -4, and does it go to the top or does it stay on the bottom? Stays on the bottom. And a moves to the top, and we'll probably want to put it in order. So I'm going to do a to the 4th there. You guys okay with that? Okay. What if I have 6 to the 9th times 6 to the -7th? Simplify it. Well, what does this do? Moves it to the bottom. And then what is 6 to the 9th times 6 to the 7th? 6 to the 2nd. On top or on bottom? On top. Which is 36. Okay. What if I swapped those? And so this was a 9, and that was a 7. Then the answer would be 1 over 36. Okay, we don't want decimal answers, we want fraction answers. All right. The last thing is, what if I had -3 x squared y to the third raised to the third. Well, this means that I have 3 copies of this. No, we have to put them all together. So -3 times -3, 9 times -3, -27. How many x's? X to the 6th. How many y's? Y to the 9th. So the question is, what does this 3, and there's a 1 right there, what does that 3 to do to each one of those exponents? Now, it doesn't multiply the 3's or the x's or the y's. It multiplies the exponents. So 3 to the first becomes 3 to the third, which is 27. X squared becomes x to the 6th, and y to the third becomes y to the 9th. Okay? So if I had x squared times x to the 4th, I have a total of 6 x's. But if I have x squared raised to the 4th, now I have 8 x's. So that's a really important distinction. X squared times x squared, I just count the x's. 2 x's there, 4 x's there, 6 x's total. But x squared to the 4th means I have 4 copies of that. And if I wrote out x squared, x squared, x squared, and x squared, that would be x to the 8th. So multiplying bases adds exponents. Raising an exponent to an exponent multiplies the exponents. So here I do 2 plus 4, and here I do 2 times 4. Do you guys understand the difference? All right, so in 1.4, so on 32, you would do z to the 10th divided by z to the 5th, which is z to the 5th. So you put the top together, and then you use the bottom to simplify. So your assignment today is so it's going to be 5 through 45 odd. Okay, get to work. Reminding me